everybody, and welcome to Money Matters. If you like to make money, enjoy learning about crypto and other investment topics, please subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy the content, then hit that like button as well. Let's get going. As a disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor, nor do I give financial advice. Let's take a look at the market. I can say that gleefully now that most of the market is green, which is nice to see. It hasn't happened yet, but we need Bitcoin to push above 40 and hold, because my thought is that once we get past 40, we're going to trough for consolidation somewhere in the 40,000 range for quite some time. But we need to get there first. Now, if someone was to ask me what my predicted floor and ceiling were, and that means going to the end of this bull run where Bitcoin goes to 400,000 or whatever, my thought on that would be 32,000 and 42,000 conservatively. So if there's some sort of a correction due to profit-taking minor situation, which is fairly unpredictable right now, or some other events, we could see a correction, but it's not a correction in the sense that the market's ending type of a correction. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens somewhere down the road, but it's not going to happen right now. With Bitcoin consolidating in the 40s, that's going to give the altcoins a chance to breathe and to run up high. And as you can see, they're still moving up and making some pretty good gains. Again, Ethereum has detached itself from everything and is pushing up towards the $3,000 mark, which is going to be a pretty big, I think, more psychological barrier than anything else. But once we hit that, we'll head to 40, I wish. We'll head to 4,000 and then on up to 5. So again, we're on track, but we're just delayed by probably another 4 to 6 weeks based off of our previous hot run. And if you think about it, that hockey stick was pretty straight and pretty up. So Ethereum was due for some sort of a correction regardless of what happened outside of that. So that's a healthy thing for the market. And I'm hoping that we see some massive gains coming out of it now, moving forward into like June, July, especially after Ethereum has this update in July. That's going to be, I'm really excited to see how that turns out. And then right after that, Cardano is coming out with smart contracts. I believe that's I want to say it's in August. I'm very excited about that too. So we'll see. Okay, in the news, there's a couple of interesting things going on. We've all been talking about the Bitcoin ETF or Ethereum ETF coming to the United States. Canada, of course, is blazing the trail and has them falling off the walls up there. But there is actually an ETF that is available in the United States. It's SPBC, Simplify US Equity Plus GBTC ETF. So what that is that's an equity ETF with a kicker, a 10% stake or a 10% allocation to GBTC. Who would have thought? But so that is available to traditional folks. They can get, it's not a full, 100%, but then that probably makes people feel better. Anyway, 10% at risk, that's not really going to tear up my allocation within that ETF. So it was pretty surprising to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. I think it's great. We'll talk a little bit more about GBTC later on in the video, because there's some important things that are happening right now that will affect the price and availability of Bitcoin. So again, we'll talk about that in a moment. The next story is a very sad one. 32 million in investor funds were stole by the crypto project DE, or it's DeFi 100. And they sent out this kind of nasty message. We scammed you guys and you can't do shit about it. Unbelievable. It's a terrible thing. And I'm really sad that it happened, but it just goes to show there are scammers out there everywhere, and money makes people do crazy things, and you really have to protect yourself. You really have to do your research. You really have to understand the projects that you're investing in. They don't call it the riskiest market in the world for nothing. And when you delve down into projects that are really new, that don't have names that you're familiar with or aren't associated with big names, it's best to steer clear. Yeah, you can still get massive gains out of some of those coins, but the risk is exorbitantly high. So if you do plan on driving down that road, be prepared to have the rug pulled out from under you at any moment, because even now it's happening. Nothing like 2017, I don't think, but it's happening, and that was just a sad thing for folks. Another kind of troubling news story had to do with BlockFi, which is a lending platform, and you basically put your money in and they lend it out to people. And they actually had a glitch in some system, whether it's their marketing system or allocation system, I really don't know, but they ended up sending out millions of dollars. I think it was $27 million to a bunch of different Bitcoin addresses. And then they were offering people $1,000 to help them get the money back. I was like, I don't know, if a couple of million showed up in my Bitcoin account, I don't think $1,000 is going to prompt me to give it up, but who knows? Anyway, can it be trusted? In my opinion, I would say no, 100% no, absolutely not. We're dealing with DeFi. This is a very important space. In fact, it has to be perfect. It cannot operate in any way, shape, fashion, or form that isn't perfect in structure and execution. And this seems to be human error or just some sort of a stupid mistake. I really don't know. They didn't get into the details up, but they did own up to it. And mistakes do happen, but you can't have a mistake like that. That's why you have testing. That's why you do the things that you do before you actually do something when it comes to software and releases. So if it was me, I wouldn't put my money in BlockFi. That's just me personally. I don't like companies that can't execute at a extremely high level, especially in this DeFi space. It'll ruin the reputation. It'll ruin other companies' reputations within the space if they're not dealt with severely. And that'll just slow down adoption, and it's not good for anybody. So sad to see it happen. I've heard good things about them, but there's other companies out there that do the same thing. And I would steer clear of BlockFi if it was me. Not financial advice, though. Let's see here. On May 17th, lender BlockFi. Oh, that's the same story. It was 29 million. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin and why the bulls are back in town, why everybody should be really excited about what's going on. So I wanted to include this chart just to give a visual indication of what we're kind of looking at from a structural point of view. So we have the 50-day moving average and the 100-day moving average on here. And the point I'm trying to bring out is that red line at the top, which is the 100-day moving average, seems to be quite a bit off the attainable chart, so to speak, ever since looking back probably about halfway through here. And you can see that it's dipping down. Of course it would, because the price has been held down for quite some time. But you can barely see that blue line starting to turn up. And if you look at the RSI down below, you can see that we're definitely moving to the upside in a more consistent manner. So the point here is that we want to get above this red 100-day moving average, at which point it's going to will be in the 40s as far as pricing goes. And that plays into exactly what I was talking about earlier. Bitcoin is going to be in a slow consolidation, probably through June and July. I think Ethereum is going to get a ton of attention all throughout July, and then Cardano is going to take the spotlight. But in the background, Bitcoin is going to just meander about within that $40,000 range before it starts to really break out. And I think that once the altcoins have made their run, and I do believe that they will make their run in relatively short order, meaning hopefully before August, then Bitcoin will be free to take off, at which time I thoroughly believe that 78,000 right off the bat, probably somewhere end of August, is not too far-fetched from a possibility. So I wanted to show this particular chart here, and this is from Glassnode. And this is another thing you want to consider when you're doing your research as well. Understanding what's happening within the market and within the exchanges with respect to not only Bitcoin, pricing and how much Bitcoin's moving around, but where it's going and what's happening. So there's three different places on here I wanted to show. And if you look at them, all three of them are pointing up. So the first one are the number of addresses that are currently buying. The middle one, which I think it's green, it looks like, it says the balance in addresses buying, meaning they're getting bigger and bigger, and the number of whales that are buying. Those are wallets that have, like 1,000 Bitcoin. Oh, I think it's 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin. So when we talked a couple of, I think it was last week, right after the catastrophe, we were talking about people shorting, or whales, rich people shorting on the way down and then buying the dip back up. Well, this is pretty evident that that's happening. But what I wanted to point out here is it's not just whales, it's a lot of people. I think a majority of the short-term retailers were shaken out of the market. Those that jumped in the last 3 months or so really were hit hard and got scared and jumped out and thoroughly regret it now. But it was a buying opportunity, and they're going in full steam ahead and buying. The fact that the Chinese government is cracking down in China, it certainly isn't helping the overall situation with respect to stability. But I think that in very short order, I'm reading things every day that they're serious. They're really going after people. And I also saw this Twitter account where they were asking folks if they wanted to have come in and do bidding on ASIC miners that are being sold out of China, because these mining companies are trying to dump all their equipment or try to get it out of the country so that they can set up someplace else to continue operation. So I think that there's a lot of things at play here right now. And the solid point to remember is that we are still in a bull market. People are still buying with the expectation that the price is going to go up. And these aren't just regular people. These are people who have a lot of money to put into it. So I wanted to bring that out there so that you kind of a little more at ease with the idea of Bitcoin done with the bottom for now and moving on up to higher ground. Oh no. I'm going to have to change this. Sorry. No, that's very unprofessional, but I can't continue without these slides. I think it's this remote. I'm not sure. It was a bargain on Amazon, and I don't know. Anyway, another chart I wanted to bring up was the Bitcoin dominance chart. This is important for a lot of reasons. We've already talked about how Bitcoin dominance is a trade-off with, well, it was Ethereum, but now it's more of a trade-off with altcoins. A lot of the money has poured out of Bitcoin and went into altcoins because people were expecting a huge bump in price, and Bitcoin had kind of stabilized and wasn't really doing much. That money is still in altcoins, so the dominance is still very low. You can see here, I think it says 42% or 45%, right around there. But as long as it stays below 50 or thereabouts, altcoins will still have plenty of room to roam. They'll be able to go up higher. We shouldn't have any negative effects from the fact that Bitcoin money's not all tied up in Bitcoin. It's tied up in ETH and altcoins, because once they cap out, money will go flowing right back into Bitcoin. And that's, my friends, when we see the end of the year or beginning of next year, huge rally in Bitcoin and the price going into six figures and making everybody happy. So we had a video on the flow of money, and this plays in perfectly what we were talking about there. So I think that there's still a lot of room to go for the altcoins, and this is perfect stability in the market, looking at Bitcoin dominance sitting below 50 and getting ready to rumble a little later on. Hey, it worked. Okay, let's recap before this thing completely breaks. We talked about this new quasi ETF that has GBTC in it, and how it's exposure in the market for folks who want to get into Bitcoin, but not full-fledged, just 10%. So I alluded to the fact that I wanted to mention some things about GBTC earlier. For those of you who are not aware, GBTC is the largest fund for cryptocurrency in the world. And they have like funds for Cardano, for ETH. They even have blended funds for all different cryptocurrencies. But exclusive buyers are allowed to buy into this GBTC fund outside of normal retail purchases. They come in, they buy $100 million worth or whatever. They don't go through a regular process. They get a huge discount. Well, in lieu of that discount, they are tied up. Their money is tied up for a certain period of time. I believe it's 6 months right now. It had changed. It was 12 months at one point in time. Anyway, there's a lot unlock periods where all of this money that's locked up becomes unlocked and they can do with it what they wish. And most of the time what they do is they pull it out of GBTC and push it into Bitcoin proper. They just buy the asset directly. Well, what happens is that discount rate, and you can think of it as if you buy GBTC or if you bought it 2 weeks ago, the discount rate was huge. I think it was double digits. You're actually buying it for less than you can, in all actuality, you're buying Bitcoin in the GBTC fund for less than you could buy it on the open market. And at one time it was 50,000 versus 40,000. That's crazy. And for folks who jumped in and purchased their Bitcoin or GBTC at that point in time, really got a good deal, because once this unlocking takes place, which it's taking place right now, you'll see that the demand is going to go down and the price is going to start going up really fast along with the discount. So the discount's going to evaporate. The next wave of investors are going to come in and purchase their discounted GBTC, which doesn't really have anything to do with the discount rate, and lock it up for another 6-month period. And what you'll see is over the next month and a half, maybe actually I'm just going to call it 3 to 4 weeks, you'll see the price of GBTC outpacing the price of Bitcoin relative to percentage. So it's never a 1-to-1, like Bitcoin goes up $1, GBTC goes up $1 or 10%. It always lags behind. So the interesting thing is that for people like us, retail investors who actually own GBTC, we purchased it at the time where there was a huge discount. Well, we're going to want to sell it when the price starts to go up because we're going to make a nice profit. So that selling point in time should be coming up here relatively soon, unless you're holding it for a long period of time, which is the $300,000, $400,000 price Bitcoin. At that point in time, GBTC is going to be pretty dang high too. And that's going to be very profitable for anybody who hangs tough. And I got locked into it for 3 years last time. I bought GBTC when it was first available in 2000. I think it was 2017 or 8. Yeah, it was November 2017, and riding high because it was just going everywhere. And then all of a sudden it just crashed. So I was locked in it for 3 years, just watching the sad red numbers every day. But anyway, it's doing better now. But for those of you who want additional information, just let me know in the comment section, and I can hit you up with some articles that you can go to and learn more about GBTC. And if you want me to do a complete video on it, I'd be happy to do that too. It's a fascinating space. And don't forget that once ETFs are available, and some predict that the first ETF will be through Grayscale, they have the most Bitcoin, and that would not surprise me. So if they are granted an ETF, their funds, this GBTC fund, will be converted into an ETF immediately. And will as customers, regular customers, benefit from that. I think it's a 2.5% fee that they charge will go away. And I think it will become a much more closely tied ETF to the actual price of Bitcoin. So good things to come on that. Unfortunately, we had a story about DeFi 100 ripping off a whole bunch of poor customers and running away with the money and flipping them the bird when they went. Sad, but be vigilant. As I've always said, don't trust anybody. Scammers are out there. Even companies that look legit aren't legit. And they've built their business from the ground up with one sole intent, and that's to get people sucked in and to rip off their money and run away. BlockFi, we talked a little bit about that and our trust for them, or my trust for them, and I no longer trust them. I won't be using them for any of my cryptocurrency. Again, this is a space where, kind of like if you're a surgeon, you make a mistake and somebody doesn't make it and it's a stupid mistake, you really don't think that person should be a surgeon anymore. That's just an important field to be in and do something, way above the average as far as execution goes. So again, not financial advice, but BlockFi would be off of my list. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think about my thoughts and ideas for Bitcoin and how it's going to be consolidating on to the upside and then breaking out towards the end of the summer, mid-end of summer. I'd love to hear what your opinions are and where you think it might go by when. So I would appreciate any comments. Hey, it worked again. And last but not least, winners never quit and quitters never win. Always give your very best effort to overcome the challenges that you face in life. I had a great day, and I certainly hope you had a great day too. I will see you tomorrow.